I'm Nancy Showalter, and you're listening to Spirituality for the Politically Incorrect podcast. Welcome, all radical paradigm shifters and creative change makers. You who dare to create a better life and a better world. Tap into the power that resides within you and use that power for constructive change. Hello and welcome to part 3 of our Ascent Back to God series, The Ritual of the Ascension. We've been talking about your origins from the divine, the purpose of your journey on earth, and the goal of life of permanent reunion with God. So today we're going to specifically talk about the Ascension. And this is a term that's used for when the soul permanently reunites with the living God, the I Am Presence, thus achieving immortal life. Now, it is a specific ritual of reunion that means the end of karmic rounds and rebirth. But even though it is a specific ritual, it's not just that single event. It's a continuous day-to-day process whereby you either use righteously the energy God sends you on a daily basis, which puts you closer to your victory, or the misuse of that energy, and you linger on the path. The Ascension is the acceleration of consciousness that actually happens every hour, every day, as you raise your vibration, as you literally increase the vibratory rate of your consciousness and accelerate toward the vibration of your God presence. And you accelerate until ultimately your soul permanently reunites with the I Am Presence, that individualized presence of God within you. There are a number of ascensions recorded in the Bible. It's written about Enoch that he walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Elijah is described as having gone up by a whirlwind into heaven. And of course, by Jesus as recorded in the New Testament. And many others who have walked the earth, some known historically, others not, have also ascended. It's recorded in the book of John that Jesus said, "No man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man." So this journey back to God applies to every one of us. In this episode, I want to discuss what it takes to achieve that permanent reunion, which is really an evolutionary step for each of us. It's really the beginning, even as it's the ending of your sojourn on earth. So there are some foundational requirements for the Ascension, and these foundational requirements are purity, discipline, and love. And they're embodied in the 2 great commandments given to us by Jesus. And those are to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind, and love thy neighbor as thyself. Now, there are also more specific requirements that involve your spiritual mastery and attainment. As discussed in some of our earlier episodes here, anchored within your heart is the threefold flame of love, wisdom, and power. And this threefold flame is the spark of life from God. Now, one of the requirements is to balance these 3 qualities so that you're fulfilling those 2 great commandments. Because without this balance, we're usually creating more negative karma, even as we might be balancing negative karma. For instance, if your power fire of the threefold flame is very strong and the love fire is weaker, tendencies of cruelty and misuses of power may exist. On the other hand, if your love fire is very strong but the wisdom and power fires are weak, you may not accomplish your unique divine plan and reason for being, which incidentally is another requirement before you can permanently graduate from the physical realm. In addition, you're required to balance 51% of your negative karma. The requirement used to be 100%, but now it's a simple majority. Then the remaining 49% must be balanced from the ascended realm. Now, of course, it's in your best interest to balance as much as possible before you make your ascension and leave this physical dimension, because you no longer embody on earth. You don't have a body. Think of how much more challenging it is to help people that you might still have karma with when they can't see or hear you. It's challenging enough when they can. So you want to do as much as you can before you take the initiation of the ascension, because then you're not allowed to re-embody back into this dimension. So other initiations, such as the transmutation of the electronic belt. Now, the electronic belt is like our untransmuted karma, all those momentums, and they sort of, that energy, because it's dense, settles around the lower portion of our physical body and contained in our subconscious and unconscious. So that needs to be transmuted and purified also. And of course, we have to have the correct use of the chakras. So just to clarify, being able to ascend with only 51% of karma balance does not mean that you can escape the consequences of your actions and evade any unfulfilled responsibilities towards life, that is, the balancing of karma. It simply means that when you have reached this point of 51% and have fulfilled the other requirements, you're able to gain the freedom and perfection of the ascended state more quickly, so that you can balance all that remaining debts to life more quickly without having to embody and risk creating more karma in this imperfect dimension. So once the 100% of karma is balanced, you're then free to move on to higher cosmic service. Now, Serapis Bey, the Ascended Master, who's the head of the Ascension Temple, which is a spiritual retreat in the etheric octaves, he has dictated a description of the ritual of the Ascension, which was scribed by Elizabeth Clare Prophet and published in the book, The Dossier on the Ascension. I'd like to read a description of the ritual of the Ascension because it's quite amazing. And I'd even invite you to meditate on these words. Wherever you are, you don't have to close your eyes, but just truly focus upon them because they evoke such powerful visualizations and elevated feelings. He describes in detail what happens to us as we go through this actual ritual and unite with God. He says, "It is true, although the form of an individual may show signs of age prior to his ascension, that all of these signs will change and that the physical appearance of the individual will be transformed into the glorified body. The individual ascends then, not in an earthly body, but in a glorified spiritual body, into which the physical form is changed on the instant by total immersion in the great God flame. Thus man's consciousness of the physical body ceases, and he achieves a state of weightlessness. This resurrection takes place as a great God flame envelops the shell of human creation that remains and transmutes in a pattern of cosmic grids all of the cell patterns of the individual, the bony structure, the blood vessels, and all bodily processes which go through a great metamorphosis. The blood in the veins changes to liquid gold light. The throat chakra glows with an intense blue-white light. The spiritual eye in the center of the forehead becomes an elongated God flame rising upward. The garments of the individual are completely consumed, and he takes on the appearance of being clothed in a white robe, the seamless garment of the Christ. Sometimes the long hair of the higher mental body appears as pure gold on the ascending one. Then again, eyes of any color may become a beautiful electric blue or pale violet. Whether it be Zarathustra, who ascended back to God in the great flame, or Elijah, who went into heaven in the chariot of fire, the flame of the ascension is the key which unlocks the door to immortality for every man. The flame is the vehicle which conveys the ascended one back to the heart of his divine presence. He retains full consciousness of this entire ritual, and once ascended, he becomes on instant an emissary of the Great White Brotherhood, and carrying out its various aims which always come under the direction of the fatherhood of God. Man's identification with purity and perfection, made manifest by the everlasting resurrection and victory of divine love, is inherent in the power of the Ascension flame. Thus, from that outer expression of the physical form, which has been called the tomb of matter, love's victory makes solar deities manifest where mere mortals formerly stood. That's the end of the quote. I love this vivid description, and I consider it a blessing to have this amazing image to hold in our hearts and minds as we go through life and move toward our own ascension. I'd like to conclude by sharing how you can invoke the Ascension flame as you visualize a sphere of white light enveloping your entire form. This is a very powerful meditation and visualization. The mantra we'll use is, I am Ascension light, victorious and free, one with God I am, for all eternity. So wherever you are right now, take a deep breath. And as you exhale, relax deeply. Let go of all stress or tension. And then visualize an intense white light surrounding you. What would it be like to feel the presence of that light? Just feel it and be there. Then let us repeat the affirmation again. You can repeat each phrase after me. I am Ascension light, victorious and free, one with God I am, for all eternity. The great thing about spending quiet time to really focus on seeing, feeling, and saying this mantra is that you gain a momentum as you repeat it. And you can repeat it, and you can accelerate even the speed as you repeat it. So that once you have deeply felt your affirmations, you can then immediately return to that state and feel the release of light and power whenever you speak the words of any individual affirmation or declaration. This happens because you have a momentum. I am Ascension light, victorious and free, one with God I am, for all eternity. I am Ascension light, victorious and free, one with God I am, for all eternity. I am Ascension light, victorious and free, one with God I am, for all eternity. When you repeat a mantra 3 times at a minimum, you have the multiplication factor. 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, but 3 times 3 is 9. So it's very powerful to repeat a mantra. And remember, when you say I am, you are invoking the presence of God within you to be that condition. This concludes our series on our Ascent Back to God. May you be blessed by this knowledge, and I'll be back with you next week. Until then, keep an open mind, a generous heart, and a powerful spirit. Thank you for being with me today, and if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, download, and comment. I'd love to hear from you, and your support is much appreciated. And don't forget, go to nancyshowalter.com to get your free electronic copy of my book, It's Okay to Be Rich, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Increased Wealth and Personal Mastery, endorsed by T. Harv Eker, and my free mini course, How to Speak Your Success, The Shocking Truth of How Your Words Impact Achieving Your Goals. I'll see you next week.